Hey there, welcome back. I'm Justin Archer, aka the Posture Guy. And you know, when I introduce myself as such, as the Posture Guy, in meetups and networking events and other business type meetings, you know, the first thing people do when they find out what I do for a living is immediately go from something like this to this. And I kind of laugh when I tell them, you know, I already had you pegged when I walked in the door because, you know, it's kind of like a sixth sense over the years I've built. Kind of like, I'm sure you guys have all seen the Jason Bourne movie. He walks in, he knows where the exits are, he knows if there's guns hidden somewhere, and it's just automatic, like a reflex to him. Well, picking up posture is like an automatic reflex to me. But when I try to teach others how to do the same, you know, granted, I built that skill up over years, now almost a decade, and for other people it takes a little bit longer to catch on. So what I teach them kind of first is kind of a simplified posture analysis or evaluation type of skill is to categorize people's postures into three conditions. And each of these conditions have common postural traits, certain dysfunctions, compensations, misalignments. Okay? So what I want to do is take a few minutes, show you what those three conditions look like, so then you can actually categorize yourself into one of those three conditions, as well as your friends and family. And below this video, in the post below, there'll be a link to three exercise routines for each condition. So you can start to do those and start to realign your posture and help eliminate any pain or symptom that you may be experiencing. All right? So first off, condition number one. Condition number one, if I were to kind of mimic here, the feet are usually averted out. Maybe they're not exactly 45 degrees, but they're definitely not pointing straight ahead. Okay, and usually the knees are bent a little, and there's what's called an anterior tilt. So if I was wearing a belt, or you can see my waistband here, it's tilted forward. Okay, usually what's happened here is the hip flexor muscles have basically hijacked your lower body and your hips and have cranked it that way, as well as with these spinal erectors, these muscles in your lower back. So a lot of people who are condition one will experience lower back pain, hip pain, knee pain, because obviously if your knees and feet are pointed in opposite directions, it'd be like trying to drive your car with the wheels pointing in opposite directions. It's going to cause some wear and tear in the car. Well, walking like this is going to definitely cause some wear and tear in your hips, knees, and ankles, as well as your feet. So moving on up, there's usually an excessive curve, a lordotic curve in your lower back, big space there. And then the shoulders are rounded forward. You can see it from the side like this, as well as the head's forward. And from the front, you'll probably see something like this, where the shoulders roll forward. So that definitely leads to things like upper back pain, shoulder pain, different nerve pains that go down the arm, headaches, migraines, all those symptoms. The condition one, you know, I would say was more, you would see it more, in the 60s, 70s, 80s. I'd say in men and women, but predominantly males. And it's usually a postural condition or position that tells you, okay, this person is overly tight. They're very strong. So a lot of times when I see this, it's in current athletes, or maybe, you know, if I see it in someone who's in their 60s, 70s, someone that used to be an athlete. Okay, so that's condition one. Condition three, and we're skipping two for a reason, we'll get back to it. Condition three is almost exactly the same, but with one very important difference. So the feet again are turned out, knees are slightly bent, shoulders, upper back shoulders rounded forward, head forward. The main difference here is instead of that anterior tilt where you're like this, they have a posterior tilt. So it's basically that kind of stereotypical, you know, you've seen in magazine stuff, the old man with a cane type of look. They have no butt, all right? And, you know, they have a lot of the same symptoms as the condition one folks, but the condition three is a sign of weakness, whereas condition one was overly tight, everything's too strong, they need to loosen up, relax for their posture to go back to where it should be. This is, you know, they're basically just hanging on their bones and joints. Nothing's really working correctly. They need to re-engage the muscles, wake them up so that their posture can go back to where it should be. Okay, so that's condition three. Another thing, condition three, very common to see in people with sedentary lifestyles. So if you're not moving a lot, you're going to be more probably a condition three. And as the decades, you know, have progressed from the 80s into the 90s, you know, now to the 2000s, I'm seeing way more condition three. Before, therapists, before my time, I talked to them, they said there was very little to almost no condition 3 people like this before the 80s. But when the computers started to come into the workforce, and now obviously, they're everywhere, there's a lot more condition 3. Basically because you have to sit in a chair for so long, like this, and your body just starts to take the form of the chair. We sit and work at the computer, we sit and drive, we sit at the table, we sit at the couch, we sit, and again, everything's just kind of hanging on your bones and joints. Another thing for any expecting mothers out there, condition 3, a lot of times will have to have C-sections. You think, okay, what does your posture have to do with childbearing? But think about it, to give birth, to bear a child, you have to get into that pelvic extension so your hips can open up and you can give birth. So there's also, as the condition 3s, we've seen more of those, there's been more C-sections, emergency C-sections, rather than natural births. On the flip side, if you go back to the condition 1, the anterior tilt, those are usually more premature birth because the pelvis is already tipped forward. So think about it, almost like the baby's already kind of rolling out of the womb. So if you're expecting mother, watch out for those. And last but certainly not least, because almost everybody is a little bit condition 2, is condition 2 means you have some type of asymmetry in the body. So maybe, one foot's turned out and the other points straight ahead. Or maybe one hip is higher and the other's lower. Or, one shoulder is higher than the other. Or roll forward. It could maybe include some rotation. So maybe my upper body is rotated this way, my lower body is rotated that way. Now I know these may be extreme examples I'm showing you here, but even if you're 10% of this, all it takes is one difference. Stand in front of a mirror, see if there's any differences, left to right, and if there is, that immediately puts you into the condition 2 category. And so what I would recommend is check out the 3 routines down at the bottom of this post, and check to see am I condition 1, condition 2, or condition 3, and then do that particular routine. Again, most people are going to be a combination, so they'll be a condition 2-1 or 2-3. And if you have any type of rotation, whether it's in your torso, in your hips and pelvis, you want to get rid of that before working on the other. So for instance, if I had that anterior tilt, which is condition 1, but I was also thoracically rotated like this, I'd want to do the condition 2 routine until this comes out, and then move to the condition 1 routine so I can take care of this. Same thing if your hips were rotated, like so, but you were posterior tilt, like the condition 3, start with the condition 2 routine, get rid of the pelvic rotation, then go to the condition 3 routine and take care of that posterior tilt. Alright, so if you have any questions on any of those, please let me know in the comment section below, and thank you for joining me inside this video. Hope you got a lot of it, and I look forward to seeing you inside the next one. Until then, take care and keep moving.